Hi, I want to talk to you about the TPI formula, or actually kind of the history of it, where we've come from and how we got to where we are today. And when you think about the TPI, really it's you need to think about how science has come into the breeding of dairy cattle. So a good place to start is probably the 1960s. And it was in the 1960s that genetic evaluations, the PD predicted difference, and now the PTA, those values and those calculations and the methodology that we are using today, that's when it really first came along and was first implemented and first being published and adopted by breeders within the US and all around. So in the 60s, we had the genetic evaluations, and at the same time, the discussion in the industry was how to get the data, collect the data so that those evaluations were accurate. So progeny testing, the design of progeny testing and the combination of that with accurate genetic evaluations is really what started the modern era of Holstein breeding. And it wasn't soon afterwards. The first traits that were introduced were the production traits, and then the industry realized that if you're going to improve production, you want to improve the overall cow and make sure that you pay attention to her conformation, as you don't want the udders to get too deep, etc. So in the early 1970s, genetic evaluations for conformation traits came along, and it was the merger of those two pieces of information, production and type, that was the start of the TPI formula. And that first TPI formula was in 1979, and since then it's just been adding more and more traits as they have come along and trying to define more precisely what it is that we're looking for a cow that will give us high production and be long-lasting and healthy and breed back and all the other things that we're looking for. So it's probably in the 2000 era that we really got into precision breeding. And I say precision breeding because rather than just having the overall goal of high production and good conformation to sustain that production, we incorporated udder composite, feet and leg composite, productive life, daughter pregnancy rate, somatic cell score, a lot more information to more clearly define what is a profitable, long-lasting cow. And when I say earlier, I said that we brought in science into Holstein breeding. And as you know, nothing is ever without bumps in the road. So an interesting part of all this was the Breeders' Majority and the Index Review Committee. And I think that was a healthy period because it got the discussion invigorated between scientists and breeders and making sure that the lines of communications were well developed and established and ongoing. So at the end of that process, I think our genetic evaluations, TPI, and the use of indexes in general was strengthened. At the end of the 2000s, 2009, we have the genomic era, and in the genomic era, the precision breeding has kind of been bumped up to a very high level, where we have even more traits that we're looking at, included calving difficulty and stillbirth, and then soon we'll be looking at cow livability and more traits as we go along. In 2014, the TPI was changed to put added focus on fertility index and feed efficiency. So it's an ongoing process, and as genomics has put more focus on particularly the elite animals, the discussion of similar discussions that we had back in the genetic index time of maybe these indexes are putting too much value on too few animals, and if they are, do we really have everything precisely described? So we're now in a period where there's a lot of money that's being determined by a TPI value. And that makes us all think that, as we look throughout the history of the TPI, it has served us very well. But one of the goals and that we've always emphasized is the TPI is a nice tool to rank animals. So when you have a lot of traits and a lot of animals, you do the TPI formula, you bring forward a group of animals that have the right combination of a lot of desirable traits. And then it's really up to the breeders to go through those top lists and pick out the animals that best describe what they're trying to achieve in their herd. So the TPI, I think, should be viewed as a screening tool. You identify the top animals. If you want more emphasis on type, or you want more emphasis on components, you put that, you select from the top group of animals those that will best meet the goal that you have. So use TPI as a screening tool, and then if we are all diligent in doing that, that should provide the diversity that we are looking for, so that when changes in the future come along, we'll have the right animals out there that we can call upon to help the breed move forward in the direction that we so desire. So it's been an interesting process. I love the combination of science and practical breeding objectives. I find the discussions with breeders about TPI and what type of cattle that we should be breeding for very fun and invigorating. And I hope that everybody continues to be part of the process in the years ahead and continue to make this great breed even greater. So thank you very much.